Three-quarters of our planet is covered by seas, meaning all of humanity's history has taken place in a relatively small area. So why shouldn't extraordinary events that astonish us occur in the vast, endless oceans? Why shouldn't unknown lives exist there? There are such tales of incidents in open seas and the dark depths of oceans that the human mind struggles to find logical explanations for them. One of the most intriguing events in maritime history appears in a 2-page letter from Burak Reis, a Turkish pirate from our past who died in 1500. The summary of what is written in the letter is as follows. At night, while advancing off the coast of Algiers, the crew informed me about a beam of light approaching us from the middle of the dark sea. Thinking it was an enemy ship, we took a battle stance and extinguished all the torches on our ship to remain hidden. As the enemy ships approached us, we opened fire on them with our cannons. However, the cannonballs passed straight through these ships, fell into the sea, and even hit our own vessels. This fleet, made of light, which we could not comprehend, passed through our ships like a white shadow. They resembled spirits or dead people. At that time, there were various beliefs among pirates. It was believed that pirates who died at sea continued to live as spirits and were not buried on land. Instead, their bodies were cast into the sea with a funeral ceremony. Burak Reis, apparently holding this belief, thought that the extraordinary fleet made of light belonged to spirits or dead pirates who continued to live in the sea. This event remains unexplained to this day. Another incident occurred in the 1980s to a shipwreck salvage team. The story goes as follows. A research team reached the wreckage of the luxury passenger ship Odin, which had sunk in the 1930s and lay 60 meters below the surface. When the team dove to examine the wreck, what they encountered caused one of their members to die and led the others to quit their profession. Melissa Kim, a member of the research team, recounts the event as follows.
4 of the 8-person team waited on the boat above, while the other 4 of us dove to inspect the wreck. The ship had sunk after hitting rocks. The largest breach in the hull revealed this. Entering through that breach, we began to examine the ship's sections. The depths of the sea are silent and dark, and that silence always frightened me. As my teammates and I wandered through the ship's cabins, we came across human corpses. They were passengers who had been unable to escape when the ship sank, drowning where they stood. Clad in gold jewelry, necklaces, and clothing, the bodies lay as if they had been waiting for someone to arrive for years. When we entered the ship's dining area, my teammates and I encountered a sight that would change our lives forever. The passengers were there, as if the ship hadn't sunk. Soft music played in the background, passengers dined, and some danced. My God. It was as if the final evening before the ship sank was being replayed over and over by the dead. We quickly rushed to the exit to escape. When we reached the surface and returned to our boat, we realized there were only 3 of us. I think one of my teammates had a heart attack due to what he saw and died down there. But none of us dared to dive back into that wreck. May God forgive us. I haven't stepped foot in the sea since that day.
In 1902, a British ship named Queen 7, carrying 90 passengers, set sail for America. On board were the families of British businessmen and some high-ranking royal officials. The ship departed in June 1902, but it failed to arrive in America on the expected date. At the time, Delays of a few days were considered normal, but the lack of any signal or news from the ship began to raise concerns. A week passed, and there was still no word from Queen 7. It was suspected that the ship had succumbed to the powerful ocean waves and sunk. However, Queen 7 was a special ship that had survived countless storms and made the journey between England and America dozens of times. A few weeks later, the British press reported that the ship had sunk as there was no trace of it. Moreover, there was no evidence of a pirate attack. 3 years after this mysterious disappearance, in 1905, a development occurred that shocked the people of England. One morning, villagers along a coastal region in India woke up to find the ship Queen 7 near their village. However, there was no sign of passengers or crew aboard. There were no footprints or evidence of a pirate attack on the deck either. Queen 7 had reappeared 3 years after its disappearance, thousands of kilometers off its route, stranded on the shores of India. For such a large ship to go unnoticed for 3 years was deemed impossible, especially in the early 1900s, when sea traffic was highly prevalent. In such a short time, it should have encountered a pirate ship or another vessel. Moreover, there was no trace of any human activity on the ship. Where had the people gone, and how had the ship ended up thousands of kilometers away from its route? The mystery of Queen 7 remains unsolved to this day. Another mysterious maritime incident took place at Turkey's Sinop port. According to accounts, in 2007, a signal was received from a Russian ship. The ship was approaching the port. However, there had been no prior notification that such a ship would arrive that day. In fact, the ship named Swanovsky was listed among missing vessels for the past 6 months. Surprised, the port staff contacted the captain of the ship, which appeared on the radar. The captain responded,
"We are approaching the port and will be there in 20 minutes."
The port staff informed the captain that the ship was not registered and would not be allowed to dock, issuing a warning. However, the captain repeated the same words.
"We are approaching the port and will be there in 20 minutes. We are approaching the port and will be there in 20 minutes."
These were the only words coming from the radio. The port staff had no choice but to grant permission. However, the ship never arrived and disappeared from the radar. The baffled port workers reported the incident to the Coast Guard and port authorities. This is how the mystery came to light. What an elderly port worker said was particularly striking. During World War II, a ship approaching Sinop port was sunk by German forces. The last message received from that ship was, "We are approaching the port and will be there in 20 minutes." Strangely and inexplicably, every 10 to 20 years, the same ship appears on the port's radar, and the radio transmissions are exactly the same. One of the most intriguing maritime incidents involves a French diving instructor. In the 1990s, this instructor was taking tourists on short diving tours and showing them the incredible underwater beauty. On one occasion, at a depth of approximately 30 meters, he realized his oxygen tank was empty. He quickly attempted to surface, but passed out from lack of oxygen and disappeared into the depths. Witnessing the situation, other divers rescued him. During this time, the diving instructor had been unconscious at a depth of 30 meters for about 4 minutes. When he regained consciousness, what he described was enough to send chills down one's spine. The diving instructor said, "When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the seabed, but there were people around me. I even saw houses and children. Their clothes looked like they belonged to an old era, as if they were the clothing of people who had died in shipwrecks years ago. I can no longer dive in that area. Whether these accounts and experiences are entirely true remains unknown. However, with 3/4 of our planet covered by seas, the oceans may hold extraordinary mysteries, fascinating events, and perhaps even chilling entities we have yet to discover. While there are countless intriguing incidents on land, which occupies only a small portion of our planet, why not in the vast, dark depths of the oceans?